Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. Hope everybody's week got off to a great start. Titans had a later practice this afternoon, and a couple of things that we learned. Not a fast-paced outing, not necessarily something to go crazy about, but some news and notes to take away that I think is going to impact the upcoming season. And a rookie who looks like he's in a position to be a week one starter. We're going to go through that tonight. We'll talk about which rookies we think are going to play considerable reps for this football team this year based on the roles that are becoming available. There are some new odds from our friends at Superbook Sports about Mike Vrabel as the defending coach of the year. We'll get to that later on in the show. Before we get going on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever it is that you're hanging out with us, share this show. Real simple. Retweet the show, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are on YouTube or Twitch, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. If you have done that already, like the video. That'd be swell. If you're on Facebook Live, share now to public in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That would also be ideal because I'm sure your Facebook friends want to talk about rookies that are going to start for the Tennessee Titans this year. So now that more of you are here, you'll continue to share the show. More people will filter in as we get rolling. So let's go ahead and get rolling. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud as always to be presented to you by our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford is the place that you go for the best car buying experience humanly possible. They're the best in the business at Two Rivers Ford. They have been since 1983. TwoRiversFord.com is where you go. Superbook Sports, not only the Superbook Sports studio, but Superbook Sports in the app. Lines up for every NFL game for the rest of the regular season right now. And their first bet, your first bet, they'll match up to $1,000 whether it wins or loses. Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. The best in the business is the Ashton team at GaryAshton.com. So, a lot of interesting stuff kind of playing out, and I think we're getting the best possible sample size of roles that we think will be roles that we thought were open and that were open at the start of training camp, and I think those are starting to materialize in real ways. So, on one hand, when you look at the different positions that we all came into training camp talking about and thinking about, wide receiver was certainly one with a lot of new pieces and parts. You talked about the offensive tackle position, specifically right tackle, the left guard spot that Aaron Brewer now occupies, and outside corner really being the only predominant thing on defense. So when you went through camp the last couple of weeks, it's 3 weeks away now from the regular season, basically, before the Giants end up coming to Nashville for the September 11th opener. You look at the situation and kind of ask yourself, okay, where are we now? Where are we now? Two preseason games done, one left to go. You've probably figured out who's going to make the roster for the most part, but you still want to see some snaps from players while you've got them. You'll cut down from 85 to 80 by tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time, and then go from 80 to 53, which is obviously the vastly bigger cut, next Tuesday as well. With all the different stuff, that kind of starts to circulate around right now, the question becomes, I think, pretty interesting. Which spot is still open for competition on the Tennessee Titans roster, or which position do you think has the best competition right now in training camp? Let me know. We'll talk about it together. I'll give you my opinion on this here in just a second. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. Which roster spot do you think has the best competition right now? We're going to talk about it together. And while you give me your answer, I will tell you about the people who make this possible. That's Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford, no matter how you like to shop, Two Rivers Ford has you covered. They are going to put you in the best possible position for your family's budget and your needs. They are the one-stop shop for things like the Ford Bronco, the all-electric Mustang Mach-E, the 2022 Ford Explorer, and so many new and certified pre-owned vehicles. One of the state's largest selection and a non-commissioned sales staff that will make sure you feel zero pressure throughout the course of the car buying experience. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So, the best roster competition, or what is the biggest roster competition in Titans training camp right now? August the 22nd, Monday. This is camp day that we've just finished, camp day 16. I believe we are 16 days, like 16 practices into training camp. So where is the biggest competition right now? Frank Hickerson on Facebook Live says running backs, which is, of course, nonsense because we know who the primary running backs for this football team are going to be. Although I do like the group as a whole, Frank. I maybe I see what you're doing there, but that's not necessarily what I'm looking at. Jared said, I thought you said the strongest position. No, I mean the best roster, best competition on the roster right now. Which position group? Nick R. Johnson says wide receiver. I think most people have their roles assigned at that spot. When you look at Robert Woods, so who would I say your two best wide receivers are right now? I would say Robert Woods and Nick Westbrook-Akina would still be one and two. I would say, though, that Kyle Phillips is, really making an argument to be the second best or second most able wide receiver on the roster. Now, I think there's a lot of things that Kyle still has yet to learn, and I don't want to place a bunch of unfair expectations on him. But the dude's a stud, and we're going to talk about him a little later in the show. But I think for the most part, you have your wide receivers kind of figured out. Now, with Racy and Dez, who fill out the last two, that is interesting. So from that standpoint, I think wide receiver is a good nominee. But would you, Philan says, would you rush Woods out there right now? Would I rush him? There's been 16 practices. He's been in every one. Right. What do you mean rushing him? He's out there. He's been out there since mandatory minicamp. There's nothing rushed about it. He's just physically available every day. So yeah, would I put him out there? Sure, because he's clearly fine. I mean, he's not being bothered at all. It's not like it's not a rush if he's healthy, and he appears to be healthy, and he appears to be completely responding fine. So where is the best roster competition? Well, I think that when you look at a variety of different positions, you could have said different ones at certain points. Wide receiver is probably where the best competition is right now, because I think, at least for the offensive line, I think we pretty much know who the starters are going to be.
I asked Nicholas Petit-Frere about just the versatility, playing left side and right side, and he said you can't have any complications. It's the NFL. How impressed have you been with him, just with how he's able to work at both of those positions?
Well, I mean, I think that's something that we're always looking for, is that you have some versatility and flexibility to play more than one position. Nick's shown that, and then there's been some other guys that, young guys that have been able to do that. Rogers, doing that as well. Chiggs, learning multiple positions of the tight end, responsibilities.
Similar for Dylan.
Dylan kind of in a situation where you able to use his versatility, get him some work at guard and all.
Yep, just trying to shuffle guys around. Just trying to shuffle guys around and see. We've had some guys out, and just trying to figure out where guys are going to be best served for themselves and for us.
So that was Mike Vrabel at practice today, because NPF, Nicholas Petit-Frere, got all the first team right tackle reps. They had a couple guys miss practice, and I wrote about this for AtoZSports.com. They had a couple guys miss practice. So Nate Davis, Christian DeLauro. I did not see Jamarco Jones practicing today. So Mike Vrabel said they were shuffling some things up, and they did. The thing that they shuffled up, though, today, after the second preseason game, after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a little longer now of training camp, what they are not shuffling is Nick Petit-Frere at right tackle. What they did shuffle is, for the first time at any point in training camp, Dylan Radins worked almost exclusively on the interior. Now, he did work exclusively on the interior. I didn't see him take a rep at tackle today. So as far as where the competition lies, I think the competition at right tackle is largely over. Now, I don't think that like today, like Mike Vrabel is not going to say today that it's done. It's Nick Petit-Frere's job. He probably won't officially acknowledge that that's a thing until week 1 and we see who actually takes the field and plays the vast majority of reps with the starters. There will probably, Mike will probably not budge on that. There's not necessarily a need for him to. But I think when you look at the way that today they put NPF on the Malik Willis plan, when I say the Malik Willis plan, I mean the idea that he's coming in and he's going to get the bulk of the reps because we know we need this guy sooner. We know this guy is closer to be able to giving us what we want. We need this guy to get more reps. So what do? You take reps away from Logan Woodside, give him to Malik Willis. Malik Willis starts to develop. What do you do with the right tackle situation? Well, you take the reps from Dylan Radins, you give them to Nick Petit-Frere. You see if Dylan Radins can play another position and help you somewhere else. But you probably have your offensive line set because he's not going to knock out Aaron Brewer of the left guard spot right now. So I think the competition for the starting offensive line, I think we're basically there. Now, again, 3 weeks away basically until the Titans and the Giants play. What could change over the course of 3 weeks? Some things, but what doesn't seem to be changing is Dylan Radins and his ability to hang on to this spot. In fact, I don't think that Nick Petit-Frere has shown us crazy ability that would dictate that he wins this job. I think it's more a case of, well, Nick Petit-Frere has been willing, he's been coachable, he's still not ready, but Dylan Radins isn't doing a good enough job to keep that spot. So it's still generally a concern. I think we now have a more concrete answer, but I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think Petit-Frere right now is necessarily a good option. It's just the best of the options that you have right now. Adam Cruz says, is Molden back practicing? He did practice today, but it was very, very light. Like they didn't wear pads or anything like that. They did a couple of drills, but Molden did practice today. Colts, please cut Kelly so we can grab him ASAP. Talking about Dennis Kelly. I don't think Dennis is coming back here. I don't think that, I mean, listen, if he was looking for a job and he said, okay, and this was the only place that was offering him a job, maybe, but I don't necessarily think he wants to come back at this point. Demario says, what's up with Danico Autry? Is he injured? He's working through something because he hadn't practiced at all. I mean, he has practiced, I think, one day in training camp, but like outside of that, I haven't seen Danico Autry participate in practice at any point. I think in the last 3 weeks, at least. Like it's been a considerable amount of time. So he's clearly working through something at this point. So where the best roster competition lies, wide receiver looks like it's still the spot. I think corner is still pretty intriguing, but I think that outside corner spot, if Elijah Molden's healthy to play in the nickel, I think Roger McCreary is your starting outside corner over Caleb Farley, which I think we've been talking to you guys about for a while, that things might be trending that way. Anyway, let's talk about rookies that are going to play for the Titans this year, that are going to start for the Titans this year. Now, I know I've told you that starters are kind of more fluid than they sound, just the general term, because it's literally who trots out for the opening snap of the offensive possession in every game that is ruled starter, right? That's how the team designates them. So, if they come out in 3 wide receivers, then there's 3 wide receivers that start. If they come out in 2 tight ends, then there's 2 tight ends that start. It's just, that's the kind of stuff that you have to keep in mind. But I do think that there's the opportunity for a couple of different rookies to play for this offense this year. And I think to contribute in meaningful ways. So I think, which Titans rookies do you think will start in week 1 is the question. Which Titans rookies do you think will start in week 1? Let me know in the comments section. We'll talk about it together. You give me your nominees. I'll give you one I certainly know who's going to, if not start, play considerable snaps right out the gate. Which Titans rookies do you think will start for this team against the Giants on September 11th? And while you guys give me your nominees, I will tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. and the man with the intel edge. Gary can get you the best intel as you go around looking for a property in this red hot Nashville real estate market, or as you look to sell your home. Sell for more with the intel edge that the Gary Ashton team can provide. They are the best. They live in the community. They work for the community. They're great local partners of many different elements of the community, like the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, and one of the biggest donation sources for the Children's Miracle Network is the Ashton team. So trust the best, trust the team that your favorite teams trust. That's the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. So, which rookies do you think start for the Titans in week one? Brian says probably Chig, because we're most definitely coming out in a two tight end set. I think that's a pretty safe bet, Brian. Adam Cruz says if both Phillips and Burks start, Phillips in the slot, who do you think ends up with a more productive season? I don't think Burks is I think Burks is probably let's see. I mean, he's top 4 for sure, but I think he's clearly behind Westbrook, Woods, and Phillips at this point. So I don't necessarily think that he's going to play, but I don't think that I think it's clearly Phillips at this point. Phillips, provided that they both stay healthy, I think that Phillips ends up being a far more productive player for them right out of the gate. And then we'll see how Burks comes along. Burks, Phillips, and McCreary, says Whiskey Malone on YouTube. So Treylon Burks, probably not. Kyle Phillips, yes. Roger McCreary, I think so, but we'll see. If Molden isn't, I think McCreary's on the field as a starter week one, no matter what. I think McCreary's out there. If Molden's not healthy, then McCreary's in the nickel. If Molden is healthy and he's in the nickel, then McCreary's on the outside opposite Fulton. I really think this dude is gonna play considerable reps. Brian says Burks is our number 1. Of course, he's not right now. He's your number 4 right now. If you were ranking them, that's not necessarily how they judge it, because they account for what X and Z receiver. Slot is a different position, and they ask them to know all 3 of those. Y, of course, is the tight end. But Burks would fall as so let's see, Woods and Westbrook-Akina. So Burks would be 3rd behind them for outside receivers, and 4th, I think, in total, because Phillips is a more useful player right now. And we'll see what happens with Burks when he plays with Ryan Tannehill in actual game action. It'll look different than Logan Woodside not being able to hit him on wide open plays down the field. Burks is going to make plays. It's not a concern. It's just no, he's not your number 1 right now. He may be at some point, but he's not ready yet. And that's okay. He can still play. I'm not worried about him playing. In fact, I think, and I talked about this on the radio today, they're playing him a lot in these preseason games because they're trying to test his conditioning. They're trying to see how much they can get out of him down the stretch when conditioning has been such a big part of the conversation around him. That's why he's playing into the 4th quarter, which I saw some people freaking out about on Twitter. I think that there's a couple of reasons why that's happening, but to see how long he can last and how long before his technique starts to break down and where they kind of need to work with him in certain spots, that's the thing that makes the most sense. Charles Coleman says, dang, so the first round pick is 4th. Yeah, it's okay, though. I mean, sure, you want him to be Julio Jones the first year that you draft him, but it's not realistic. It's not the reality of the situation. It's fine. They're going to run the football, and they're not going to have heavy volume passing anyway. So, it may be that he goes crazy one week and then he's quiet for the next couple weeks. It may be that they have him in certain personnel packages and don't have him in others. I don't think it's any reason to get bent out of shape just because there's 3 other players that can give the offense more right now. It doesn't mean that he can't be productive. It just means that he's not ahead of those other 3 guys. One of them is a 10-year vet. The other one's been in the league and on the same team and in the same offense for the last 4. And the other one's just a really, really nice and nuanced refined player for a rookie in Kyle Phillips. Burks isn't that kind of refined yet, but he's got all the physical gifts in the world. It's just not first round potential doesn't mean first round or doesn't mean instant impact, game breaker. Like, not everybody's Justin Jefferson. Surprise, breaking news. Not everybody is Jamar Chase. You can have a good player for a long time for your franchise and him not be the greatest thing in the world right away. Like, it's just, all right, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. All right. So I think that Kyle Phillips for sure, though, that's the player who I think is going to be the most integral part of what they're doing in this rookie class. Of course, I think Nick Petit-Frere is also going to start, but I think Kyle Phillips is going to give him a lot.
Professor, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, how it came about, how you feel about it, and whether or not you think it's fitting for you.
Yeah, and I think it's it's a funny nickname. Came about just in meetings. I was answering the questions correctly. Feel like I was doing the right thing, and yeah, so that's pretty much how I got the nickname, and I'll take it. It's nothing bad. It's all good. So
Kyle, so having like a nickname like the Professor, you almost take it like a compliment, right? Because you're able to answer all the questions. You're a rookie, kind of making all these impressions on the team for the first time. Does that kind of make you feel good that your position coach says that about you?
Yeah, it definitely makes me feel good. But it also puts a little bit of target on my back in the beef. Sometimes he'll throw some trick questions out there, try and catch me, and when he does, he doesn't let me live it down. So it goes both ways.
So that is Kyle Phillips, nicknamed the Professor. He's going to play a lot for this team, and in a variety of different ways. He'll certainly be their primary punt returner, it would seem, and I think he's going to be, this dude is as Greg Cosell once told me, he's going to roll out of bed and play the slot. Like, he's just really, really good at this point, and we'll see how everything else around him comes around. And I think there'll be some moments where there's clear and obvious growing pains, and for the most part, I think he's going to be fine. Let's wrap tonight's show up talking about Mike Vrabel and the odds I saw on Mike to repeat as Coach of the Year in the Superbook Sports app, as a matter of fact, which we'll talk about right after I tell you about our friends at Superbook Sports. The question, though, that I'm going to ask you first, give me a percentage chance that Mike Vrabel wins Coach of the Year in back-to-back seasons. Give me the answer. We'll talk about it together. I'll give you the odds that I saw right after I tell you about the place where you can get these odds, Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the newest sportsbook app to go live in the state of Tennessee, and it's the one that I think is the best to use. Superbook Sports has a clean and easy-to-use app. The odds are available for every NFL game, so I can bet the entire season right now if I want. They will match your first bet up to $1,000, whether it wins or loses. The app, you can get it you can get it if you use Android. You can get it if you use Apple. It's clean, it's easy to use, and it has a lot of cool odds boosts, especially on local teams. So bring Vegas to the palm of your hand with the Superbook Sports app. For terms and conditions, go to superbook.com. Gambling problem, Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, Mike Vrabel as the back-to-back Coach of the Year, what percentage chance do you give him? 15-1 is not a percentage chance, says Josh Bowman. Josh Bowman is giving me odds, but that's fine. I asked for percentages. 22.2 says Mark Jones. Dave Samsel says no way, 5%. I am inclined to agree with you, Dave. I just think that the chances are super unlikely. Jake Barr asks a good question. When's the last time that's happened? I don't know. Producer Reed maybe can find us the answer. It would seem to, I just assume you would Google, has there ever been a back-to-back NFL Coach of the Year? Because to my knowledge, I can't think of one. I don't like Bill Belichick has not won this very many times for as damn good as he has been over the course of the last 25 years of coaching. I would be surprised. If there has been a back-to-back Coach of the Year candidate. We'll see if producer Reed can come up with it. Linda says, my answer, right or wrong, 100%. She thinks that Mike Vrabel's got it. Well, Superbook Sports has Mike at 30-1 to win the Coach of the Year again. That's pretty good odds. I certainly wouldn't count him out. The whole don't count him out thing was the reason he won the Coach of the Year last year. So Mike's always, I think, going to be in the discussion of this. I think Mike is kind of like Pete Carroll. Like, I think Mike Vrabel's going to have a really, really long and successful head coaching career, across the course of his NFL coaching career. Stephen King says Joe Gibbs, 82 and 83, is the last back-to-back Coach of the Year. Producer Reed is giving me the thumbs up in the background. Eric Castillo says Bill Belichick wasn't good. Tom Brady made him good. That is, of course, nonsense. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Mike Vrabel as back-to-back Coach of the Year, I'd put it probably less than a 5% chance. It's just such a, if in any of these awards, like if you said pick player or coach X versus the field, I'm always going to get a better percentage chance with the field. But, Mike has a lot of ability, and he's certainly shown it throughout the course of his first 4 years as the Titans head coach.
I don't like to look back at last year, but 12-5, number 1 seed, first time for this franchise since 2008, using a record 91 different players, most ever in a non-strike season. As Nashville president of the local chapter here, I present to you on behalf of the Pro Football Writers Association the NFL 21 NFL Coach of the Year.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
You guys can clap. Put your phones down and clap.
For you or Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa.
Can you hold it up for a second?
I can't break it. It's good.
So that is Mike. We surprised him. Teresa brought his. So that's the PFWA. It's like our writers union, Pro Football Writers of America. So he won the NFL Coach of the Year. He won the AP Coach of the Year. I think like Fox Sports did like a poll and he won Coach of the Year. And then the Pro Football Writers, our writers union, voted Mike Coach of the Year. So Teresa brought his award and said, we're going to surprise him after the press conference. Don't let him get out of here. And so, if he had been in a shitty mood, it would have gone really poorly. I don't think there was, in fact, it may have been comedically better other than him telling us all to put down our phones and clap. I don't know if he was telling us to clap for him or to clap for Teresa. I kind of hope that he was telling us to clap for him because that makes it funnier. But I think that yeah, there was potential for that to go really, really poorly based on some of the Mike Vrabel press conference that I have experienced in my lifetime. But luckily for Teresa and everybody involved, that went pretty smooth. That's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show is not a training camp tomorrow. Titans decided they're just going to do a walkthrough. They're not practicing tomorrow. They're going to take it easy on everybody's bodies. So we will be in studio. We are going to talk some Vols tomorrow on the radio show while that's going on. Wednesday, we're back out there for joint practices against the Cardinals, so that will be great. Radio show at 10 tomorrow. If I don't catch you then, check out A to Z Sports Prime Time tomorrow night. We'll be right back with you at about 8 p.m. Central Time. Have a great rest of your evening.